Welcome. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the BVTV Top Gun Sales and Marketing channel. For many years, marketing was regarded by many companies, especially in the UK, as a burdensome cost. And many of you will know of the old quote that half of my marketing or advertising money is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half, the usual moan. Thankfully, as a committed marketer myself, all of that is changing. And the UK companies have awoken to the value of marketing, which is now becoming a balance between an art and a science. Now, that momentum needs to continue if we are to seize the post-Brexit opportunities and grow the UK economy. Marketing will be key. At BVTV, we're encouraging slumbering businesses to awaken to the new and varied business growth opportunities around. Now, that means they need to do some market research, trends, needs, etc., and then match their lead generation efforts accordingly with a strong strategy. So I thought you would enjoy and benefit from me taking a trip to West Yorkshire to meet the founder of Xpand Marketing, Jag Panesar. Welcome, Jag.
Hi, Malcolm. How are you doing?
Excellent. Now we're both in this really strange weather time at this moment in time, aren't we? And you're not too far away from us. It's normally I'm zooming across to somebody in the sunshine in America, and they're telling me how wonderful the weather is and everything. But we can share mutual moans, can't we?
We absolutely can. Yeah, it's not so. It's a little bit grey today, but luckily no rain, so I can't complain too much today.
Yeah. Now, what we are going to do, Jag, in our meeting today, is annoy other people south, in the Midlands and the South, because we're going to talk about the talent that's in marketing here in the north of England. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Jag, I'm delighted you're kindly guesting on the BBTV Top Gun Sales and Marketing show. Marketing is key to the UK revival. In this BBTV talk show, I'll be chatting to Jag in three parts: goals, strategy, and execution. First part, I'll chat to him about how and as we eat in 2021, we should be thinking about our marketing goals and objectives. Is it time to see and seize opportunity? Part two, we'll move to talking about both of our favorite subjects, and that's marketing strategy. In part three, we'll talk about the things so many businesses fail to do, and that is execute their strategy. Jag, before we get into our three-part talk, can you please briefly introduce yourself to my viewers and listeners? Who's Jag? What drives you? And what makes you jump out of bed in the morning?
I'm Jag, and I run a digital agency called Xpand. We've been going for 13 years, and we work with clients throughout the UK in a variety of sectors. What drives me? It's a very my sense of purpose is a very large, worldly sense of purpose. I want to make my mark on the world. My grandfather came to the UK from India in the early 60s with very little. Very little money, and he had a small family, and he built it up. And when he passed away in 2010, he had four sons and a daughter, and they were all very successful. And between them, they had their own businesses, and over time, they've employed hundreds, probably thousands of people. And off the back of that, those hundreds of thousands of people have all been able to pay their mortgages, feed their kids, and take their kids to football classes or whatever. And in my eyes, that's just the most amazing thing that you could ever do. So really my drive, my sense of purpose is to be able to do that, help businesses grow, build a team, people, just help develop our own little economy, really. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm with you there. But I have noticed, and so will many of my viewers, that there's a number of guitars in your room. So is that another passion?
It absolutely is, yeah. I would definitely say I'm not making my mark on the world with my music. I would like to, but I'm not quite at that level. I think that's just more of a nice little hobby. I just love anything to do with music, and I'm never more than an arm's reach away from at least two guitars.
All right. So I'll not be booking a ticket soon to come and watch you at Roundhay in Leeds, will I?
Probably not, no.
Oh, okay. Let's get into our chat. Jag, let's kick off in part one. As we eat into 2021, what should we be thinking about about marketing goals and objectives. Now, is it time to see and seize new opportunity? Is it time to raise visibility? After all, so many businesses have closed in 2020. I hardly know who's around these days. Should we be looking for trends and changes?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with everything that's happened with COVID-19, there have obviously been specific sectors that have really fallen victim: hospitality, leisure, and then there are other sectors that I've seen have done really well out of it. Obviously, there's a lot within hospitality and leisure. There's a lot that, their hands are tied in a lot of ways. But we've seen examples of some great pivoting. I hate to use a term, probably the most heavily overused term in 2020, but these people were seizing opportunity, and that's what it's all about. We've all been pressured to find a way to survive in business, and find a way to actually, make it through. And I think really the positive that's come out of it, it's really pulled out that entrepreneurial spirit, and just seeing how we can actually pull something positive from it. And even with it, for us as a business, it really did put the pressure on and make us think harder about how we can position the way that we do things, and it adjusted our goals and objectives in a major way. So I think, the very first thing that we saw people doing beyond the initial freeze, when the whole world went into lockdown, there was about a 2 or 3 week window where everyone was just shocked. And things started to come into play. Strategy is a very big part of what we do, marketing strategy. And we found a lot more people speaking to us about marketing strategy rather than coming to us for web design or branding or SEO or that kind of stuff, because they all recognize they need to stop, just take stock of what's going on, put a plan in place, and then move forward with it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we'll be talking about strategy in part two. But I know the word is not abused, but used a lot. The word pivot. But people like ourselves, I was driving 20,000 miles a year, presenting shows and events, and that, as well as flying. And now, since March, everything is here in the studio. And I'm not complaining because we've suddenly reaching around the world. So is it easy or not to get businesses to take the blinkers off when you're talking to them about changing their goals and objectives?
I think right now it's easier than ever before. We've had numerous businesses early on in lockdown coming to us saying, we have sold online. We've sold in the real world for so long, and now we need to go online. What do we do? And there was a massive misunderstanding with a lot of them that I spoke to of what was actually involved. I had a chap that sold Rolex watches approach me, and he sold through his network, and he sold to some very high profile people via his network. And to go online, I gave him an indication. I said, if you're selling Rolex watches, you need a Rolex website. And he was a little bit shocked at what he should have been spending. I think the growth of the world moving into digital. We're in a digital revolution right now. The last 10, 15, 20 years maybe we're living through the digital revolution. What COVID-19 has done is it's simply accelerated the rate that we're actually moving into that, at a rate that we probably would not have gone into at all. Social media usage absolutely spiked at the beginning of lockdown, and I think it's continued to do so. We've just all of a sudden, I feel very fortunate that we have this kind of technology. Imagine this scenario 20 years ago, we've all been texting each other on our little Nokia phones.
No, it was worse than that. I can go back further, Jack. When I had that big phone that was like a brick, and the farmers in the north used to bash the nails into the fences with it, and you just could not communicate as we can these days, though. But the thing is, with that as well, I think I'm going to suggest to you that people have got a wrong conception, because they're being sort of almost led to be thinking that it's a cheap way around. It's not. It's less expensive and cheap go together. You need to be professional about it, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of, the Rolex example is a great example. A number of people I spoke to said, I've got this much budget and I was thinking of doing something with that. And I said, you want to build a website for that much, and you can get websites for £300 or whatever. But the truth is, what you're incurring there is more of a cost rather than making an investment, because it's a bit like buying a shiny new car without the engine or without the seat, without the steering wheel. It's so important that it's put together with the goal needs to be, what do you want to achieve from this kind of marketing that you're doing, rather than going down the route of, oh, we must have a website and we must do social media just because that's what everyone's doing. There has to be that understanding of why it's being done and having the right kind of metrics in place, which obviously I suppose we'd talk about in part 3 in terms of execution. It's measuring the marketing is absolutely paramount. That's often the missing gap between setting the goals and just knowing whether it's working or not, because a lot of organizations setting goals, writing them down somewhere, it sits on a shelf in a nice strategy, and then it just gets forgotten about.
I totally agree. And it is where, of course, marketing is moving away from that art-based creative into being a science, isn't it? And with the measurement. And we'll talk about that, as you say, in part 3. But before we do that, let's move to part 2. And just before we get into the question, I'd like to remind viewers and listeners of your website URL, website address, which is all the W's, Xpand Marketing. Now, I'd like to explain that. Viewers, obviously, you can see there's no E before X. It's Xpand Marketing, Xpand marketing.co.uk. So hopefully you got that written down, listeners. And I'll say one more time, no E beforehand, all the W's, Xpand, Xpand marketing.co.uk. Okay. Now, Jag, it's time for part 2 and to talk about both of our favorite subjects, and that's marketing strategy. I find that all too often businesses don't have one, especially smaller businesses, or if they do, it's so convoluted and put together by committee that it becomes unclear. What's your thoughts on preparing an effective and realistic marketing strategy? What's a good process? Oh, by the way, I have downloaded, I have cheated. I've been onto your website and I've registered and downloaded that great template of yours. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great lead into that. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It's something that, you could spend a whole year putting together a marketing strategy. Where does it end? Business in general is a little bit like a blank canvas. There's so many external forces that impact and so many different things that you could look into, and you could just go on forever. We created as a team a process called Solar 7. It's 7 stages to achieve marketing return on investment. So the 7 stages, and the reason we call it Solar 7 is because as we were creating it and putting it together, it just happened to look a little bit like a solar system. And we thought as an analogy, it makes it quite easy to understand. If you go to the website, you'll see on there, download the template, you'll see how it looks. But to give you a rough outline, stage 1 is discovery. You need to understand where you've been, where you are, and where it is you want to go. So we've just talked about goals and objectives. And that's really important, having the right goals in place and being specific with them. Smart objectives, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. And if you're getting really defined with those objectives and goals and putting a time frame against them, that will really help. Really, that's actually the bullseye. That's the target that you want to be aiming for. So in the discovery session, once you've understood, like I say, where you've been, where you are, where you want to go, that'll help pull together all the targets. Stage 2 is the strategy, and the strategy captures all the activity that needs to take place. And as a part of that, what you want to then do is you would look at what is stage 3, which is kind of, imagine stage 3 is in the solar system. It's at the heart of the model, which is the brand and the message and the content that you're getting across. Your brand is really the foundation of everything that you're all about. And your brand isn't just your logo. It's your it's everything that people believe about you. It's how you express your beliefs and how people think about you, and your tone of voice and your values and all those kind of things. And then stage 4 is your website, and imagine that to be a bit like the sun in the solar system. And then stage 5, what we call the planet. So imagine there's 5 planets. One represents being found on Google, SEO and pay-per-click. One represents PR, one represents advertising, one represents social media, and one represents email marketing. So they're kind of, broadly the 5 broad kind of digital areas. There are a lot more. And imagine each one of these planets all diverting traffic to the website. And then stage 6 is reviewing and measuring the activity of what's taking place. And then, whatever's working, great, keep doing more of that. Whatever isn't working, go in, tweak it, refine it, and make that work. And then stage 7 is ultimately what will get you your return on investment. So they're the 7 stages that we would generally work to. And it seems to, we've used this model for the last 3 years, and it gets a very good response.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I've seen hundreds of models around the world over the many years. Yeah, you see the grey hair. But I like Solar 7. What I really like about it is that you are stopping people from jumping straight into a strategy. You're making them think where they are, and all those aspects. It doesn't happen. Too many people say, I want it now. Can I have a strategy this afternoon? And the next hour. It doesn't work like that, does it? But because I just remind people before we chat a little bit further about it, that they can get hold of the Solar 7 template for free by going to all the W's, Xpand marketing.co.uk. Remember, it's XPAND marketing.co.uk. And if they sign up and obviously agree to your terms, and then you will send them the template to work through, and obviously you'll help them work through the template. Just back onto that strategy there. How different do you think strategy has changed during this pandemic? As some people were saying to me, we've moved forward or changed 10 years in the last 10 months. Where do you feel that strategy has changed?
I think the awareness and the planning is the awareness of the need to plan has become really very much at the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah.
In the last recession in 2008, we set up in 2007, so I was new to business then, but I do know that the marketing departments and marketing in general was one of the very first things to take the cut. Back then, I mean, we were at the dawn of digital probably around that time, whereas now it's just accelerated, and it's probably to do with the fact that we're all locked indoors, and it is the primary medium that we use. But I think there's definitely been a shift in the value and the understanding of what marketing is purely because of that. We were forced to do things within the parameters of what we actually only could do, which was via digital means. So yeah, I do think that marketing in general is now perceived. It's respected a lot more as a function in business. We've recently written a blog about this. And other functions in business, people get what finance is for, people get what HR is for, people get what the sales function does, but marketing has previously been perceived as the colouring in department, the guys that just play on social media. Once somebody said to me in a previous job, you get to spend all day just messing around in the warehouse with a photographer while we have to do real work. And I was thinking, there was a lot of hard work involved in doing that. And that was setting everything up. It was one of the sales guys, and that was setting up the process for the sales guys to actually be able to get the sales in. And I genuinely believe that those perceptions have changed now. There's a lot more respect for marketing as a function, I think, over the back of what's happened in the last 10 months. Yeah.
And hopefully as well, more sales and marketing people will be on the board. It's a truism at the moment that 1 in 4 companies have somebody from procurement on the board, but only 1 in 12 have a marketing person or sales and marketing person on the executive board. So as you say, that believing of that. I also think, though, that we're seeing new marketers come through. I get told off by my Freeman of Marketeers. I'm a member of it's called Marketeers. I think new ones are coming through, such as conscious marketing, being aware of planet, people and profits. Have you started to encounter that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, the last 10 months are a great example. I think the emotive element behind, it was a very difficult time at the very first stages. And what happened was everybody all of a sudden took to social media just to try and help each other. And just from a sense of brand purpose, the brands that really understood and connected with the audience were the ones that kind of really strengthened themselves and built intrinsic value for their audience. And I think we probably changed, the whole world has changed as consumers. We're a lot more connected, probably emotionally, than we used to be with brands. And I think brands, the ones that are adapting to that and having some kind of displaying their sense of social purpose and corporate social responsibility and communicating that to the audience, they're the ones that will really stand out and build a lot more strength in what they're doing moving forward.
Yeah. And by the way, that's where I think Solar 7 will be of a good application. Our Conscious Matters channel with conscious marketing leadership and everything is possibly our fastest growing channel across the world. Next week, we're interviewing Microsoft and NASA, how they're coming together on a conscious marketing project and everything. But I think Solar 7, there's NASA, there's a kind of link, isn't there? Yeah. I think Solar 7 is a nice way of people actually doing that thinking and understanding where are we, what's happening in the world, what's the trends, where's it all going to, as you quite rightly say. Thanks, Jack. Now, for part 3, and the bit that often gets forgotten. Efficient execution of the strategy. It's said that 90% of strategies never get to the execution stage, which it seems to me like a complete waste, isn't it? Now, these days, marketing can be measured and monitored, and the agile company can adapt their execution where necessary. So what's your thinking on effective marketing execution?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that the number of strategies that I've seen that have been put in place and then not followed through. Now, I can't blame companies entirely for that, because no business operates in a vacuum environment. So when we create a strategy, there might be something that will happen the next day or next week that will completely change it. Again, COVID-19 is a great example. We created and delivered strategies in February 2020. By the time it came to implementing them, the whole world had changed completely. So we've actually had to go back and say, right, how do we adjust around the circumstances that have changed? So that is a thing. And, we frequently touch base with clients that we've done strategies for, because we recognize things have to change. But the fundamental problem I find is consistency is key. And that is the key that is missing. I think when a strategy is put in place, a strategy is exactly that. It's a long-term thing, and then you've got your broken down elements to it. And keeping on track is the bit that people struggle with. They'll lose sight of, what that objective is, because something around them has changed, and there aren't enough review points where they will sit down and say, right, okay, we've got this far, we've done this, who hasn't done this, who hasn't done that, let's kind of sway it in the right kind of direction. It's the consistency that is the bit. And it also comes down to, in a business, so there's some kind of new fire to put out somewhere, and it all of a sudden moves over. And the finance department is often in control of a lot of stuff. My wife's an accountant, so I feel I can say it. So it's obviously cash is kind of the lifeblood within business, and if there is some kind of cash flow related issue, then they've got to look at what is. Sometimes the finance department might perceive some of this softer brand building activity as that's much more longer term, as something that we don't need because it doesn't pull a hard result, and that's also tends to be a bit of a problem in supporting the consistency. I think a big part of it comes down to the mindset. If a strategy is put in place, the key leaders behind the business have to be behind it. If they're not behind it, then it's a cost and it's not an investment. Yeah,
I'm totally with you there. And I also think that now that marketing is changing into this science and is more accepted, that the blending in of the marketing plan with the business plan is much more understandable by, as you say, finance departments and that. And also, that bit about doing the corporate promotion, promoting the brand and everything there. I think it's very important, because visibility as is a need at this moment in time, as companies have changed, they've gone, and is Woolworths still around? Type of thing, Yeah, I was saying to my wife, who go down such and such a shop the other day, she says they closed. Did you not know they're gone bust? And So visibility, I think, is an important part of I'm suggesting within that execution as well. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think visibility, I mean, that in my eyes is the key behind it. I've probably skipped in my mind and just gone past what I see to be the most obvious thing, and that's probably also a bit of a problem in marketing. But yes, absolutely, visibility. And also the biggest challenge now is, again, because we've been forced into much more of a digital arena now, because there are so many more users on social media, but there are also not just social media in the digital arena. There are so many more companies competing for the same space. There's a lot of white noise. There's a lot out there. So you've really, really, really got to work hard to stand out. And by that, I don't mean just constantly spamming and all day, every day, just putting posts out on social media and just trying to be present everywhere. It comes down to the core value of what your organization truly believes in. If you can capture that and concisely put the message out of what your core value is, that will resonate more with an audience than you just constantly sell, bash them with the selling. If you're getting your core value and you're putting it out there, that's the kind of thing that will help cut through all the noise and really help people build some kind of intrinsic value for your brand. And then when they're ready to purchase, they'll remember you.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about what you did at the very beginning when I asked you to introduce yourself, and you talked about purpose. You know, I think mission and all that is gone now. You know, purpose is the goal, and especially it fits into the planet, people, and profits of the conscious agenda, which marketing really needs to get itself firmly involved. And you obviously seem, what you're doing there, and I think Solar 7's a great starter. I'd like to say thank you, Ed. You've been watching two people who are convinced marketing is key to the revival of the UK. Xpand Marketing is doing it daily for businesses. Thanks, Jag, for a great interview.
Thank you, Malcolm. I really enjoyed it today.